This is Jim Cornette. You're listening to InYourHeadOnline.com, and you've made the right choice.
Welcome to In Your Head Wrestling Radio. I am the internet icon, the pride of the pilgrims, handsome Jackie Jones, and I'm joined by special guest today, Daniel Harnsberger, also known as the progressive liberal Daniel Richards. How you doing?
Hey, great, Jackie. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm excellent. So, first of all, I think the first time I heard about your gimmick was off the Deadspin link, and some of our fans on our Facebook group was sharing it, and it's funny because when they were sharing it, some people were like, everyone was like, this is the perfect heel, but some people were like, this is the perfect heel because I don't like him, and some people were like, this is the perfect heel because I do like him, but for the area you're in. So, besides the areas you wrestle, what kind of messages do you get, like from fans from other parts of the country?
Usually the people that reach out to me are, reaching out for support, in a supportive fashion, which was, unique, especially when the first Deadspin story broke, because, I'm just used to having 95% or greater of the audience not liking me. So then to get messages from people literally around the world, and support and praise was pretty cool. I certainly don't need it. Like, I understand what I'm doing, and I don't need to be. I'm not one of those heels that needs to be cheered. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I have enjoyed the positive stuff as well.
Yeah. Was this your first gimmick in wrestling? Had you been wrestling before you adopted the progressive liberal?
Oh yeah. I started. I've always been Daniel Richards from the beginning, but it was always with a different moniker, like Big Dan Richards, which is not creative at all, and Dynamite Dan Richards, just because I guess that sounded okay, and but like the old Tom Pritchard question, it's like, what's so dynamite about Dynamite Dan Richards? So, and I probably couldn't have told you then or now, but I can tell you who the progressive liberal is in a very nice, quick elevator pitch. And and ultimately it's just an extension of who I am. It's just turned up a notch, and that's why it works and resonates.
Mm-hmm. Like, when did it first come about, though? When did you think, like, hey, I think I'm going to try this in front of the audience and see how it goes?
Well, I thought about it. See, I had this hiatus from wrestling, and then I came back in summer 2014, and I started thinking of it at least then, if not before then. I just thought of the areas where I was wrestling predominantly, and I just knew it would work. But it wasn't. But most of the shows I was doing were spot shows. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't one place I was working with any kind of like regularity, or that was running any kind of like angles programs for where it would fit. So then it was just it was another spot show in 2015, which was at least a year and a half after I thought of doing it. And the guy who was running this was like, hey, just be the best heel you can be. And that was my only direction. And I just looked at that as an opportunity to try it out, everything that was in my head. So, I got in the mic, and I can't remember much of what I said, but of course, the line that everyone that's read my story might be familiar with at this point is when I talked about how I wish Trump would not build a wall around Mexico, but instead around the town I was wrestling in, and so that people couldn't infiltrate the population. And but the whole thing got a lot of palpable heat relative to the crowd size. So I knew I had something. A guy tried to fight me, from the crowd. Came up to ringside and everything. So I was getting the reaction I wanted, and I just kept it up, bringing it from town to town, and now here we are.
Yeah. that moment when you tried it out and you get that immediate reaction, immediate heat from the crowd, and you said someone even tried to like fight you. What was that moment like for you? Because that's very rare in wrestling nowadays. I think where people get actual heat, where the crowd really doesn't like somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I mean, I think it's aided by where I'm at. I mean, this is the progressive liberal is one of those things. I mean, I'm not comparing myself to Bret the Hitman Hart by any means. I mean, but there is a comparison in the sense that when Bret Hart when in the late '90s when he was finishing up in WWE, when he went to Canada or overseas, he was cheered. In the U.S., he was a heel. So it had a reach based on where he was. It dictated what kind of reaction he was getting, and that's the same thing here. But the only difference is it could vary town to town in certain states, and definitely varies by state of what kind of reaction I'm going to get. So I think that's unique. I'm sorry, what was your original question? I trailed off a little.
Well, I like your answer there, and I always think that's the best villain, not even in wrestling, just in movies or any storytelling, where it's someone to them what they're doing is right. And,
yeah. I'm not a heel that wants to be cheered,
Right.
I mean, but because of the political divide, there's going to be people who love me or hate me. But I'm going to wrestle the same style every time. I'm not going to, just start doing arm drags and things like that because, someone's cheering for me or, the audience is overwhelmingly cheering for me. I'm going to Annandale, Virginia this Friday to wrestle for the first time for Nova Pro Wrestling. And that if my intuition is correct and the vibe I'm getting, that's going to be the first time that more than half the audience is cheering for me. So it's exciting to me. Again, not because I need to be placated and need to be cheered, but because it'll be a unique experience. Because I've been doing this. I've been wrestling as a progressive liberal for almost 2 years now, and I mean everywhere I'm booed and Donald Trump chants and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
I was in Madison, West Virginia last Friday for making my debut for a different promotion, All Star Wrestling of West Virginia. And man, I mean that was probably more heat than I've had anywhere. So, and they knew who I was beforehand because of all this coverage. So that worked.
Yeah, and I think that must help the promotions too. Since this started to take off and kind of went viral, has more bookings popped up, or are people trying to bring you in? Or is it the opposite?
Sure.
Are people like, we don't want this here because it brings the wrong type of heat?
Well, it's not the wrong type of heat. Mm-hmm. I mean, it could easily become that. And I've crossed that line before, and had to be brought back in. In terms of hey, that you went too far here. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was more early on, but now that I have that understanding of the right type of heat versus the wrong type of heat, I mean, anyone who doesn't want to bring me in is just not looking at this in the business sense. To me, there's going to be people that at least the first time you bring me in are going to want to see what this is all about. Uh-huh. And then, I mean, one thing that doesn't get covered, because they mostly show clips of my interviews, because that, those are the sound bites. Mm-hmm. Is I can go in the ring. I can move. I can, especially for a 6'5" guy. So, I can work a little bit. So, that will keep people coming back. But if you're just looking at the politics and you don't agree with the political views, I mean, to me, you're just Mark. Don't book me, please. But, Look at this from the business sense. Like, my booking, my booking fees are very reasonable, very fair. So,
has it ever? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Oh no! I was just saying I keep perspective about it. I'm not charging out the yin yang or anything. I mean, I think if I'm making you money, then maybe I should make a little too.
Right.
I should have to just, fair enough.
Of course. And have you thought about merchandise?
Oh, I mean, I'm glad you asked, so I can do cheap plugs.
Sure, of course.
I've got a t-shirt shop at whatamaneuver.net. I have 3 different shirts there. And also for live events only, I have a shirt. It's it says Hillary / Richards 2020. And it's an image of Hillary, an image of myself, because a lot of people were asking for that. Mm-hmm. And then our slogan, our campaign slogan is tag teaming to save America. So that shirt's available at live events only. The other shirts are available at whatamaneuver.net. And there's links to that on my Twitter, and I plug them on the regular because, why wouldn't I?
Of course. Yeah. Where did the shirt that you wear with Hillary pictures all over it, where did that come from?
Well, I called Hillary and she didn't take my call, so I just had to go like everyone else and Google, do a Google search, and I just typed in Hillary shirt, and I was looking for something just with her face, like in the middle of it, right. And then I saw the shirt that everyone's seen me in at this point with just the whole shirt is a collage of Hillary faces, and I said, oh yeah, that's the heat. So, I mean, that served me well, especially before all the viral, all the internet, all the coverage. It helped if I was going somewhere where they had not seen me, never heard of me, they quickly get the idea. Mm-hmm. That shirt, it's instant heat, and then to me, it's just my job just to sustain that through my work in the match.
Yeah. You mentioned... go on.
Oh, I was just going to say... I say that, but now here I'm about to start wrestling some places where I might be cheered.
Right. You mentioned earlier about crossing the line once or twice or a few times, whatever. I explained that, and because and what to you is crossing the line? Because wrestling is entertainment, but at the same time, you do want people to get mad. But what is the line for you?
Okay, to me, so people are going to be entertained, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to repeat what I said. This was in a radio interview where I took it too far. I mean, it was right when I had started for the one promotion in Kentucky. So I was doing a radio interview promotion, went too far. So to generalize it, and so people have an idea what we're talking about, so people are going to be entertained. They're going in essence to forget about their day to day and whatever problems they might have and just hopefully get lost in the stories that are told in the ring and some good action. And so politics for my gimmick is obviously the hook. And it's not just politics, a lot of times when I'm going in these rural areas like West Virginia, Kentucky in particular, that's coal country. So I can talk about that, that's heat. But when you cross a line, say you get into something personal like I wouldn't want to talk about black lung. Or right. Something like that, because that's personal. That reminds people of hurt and pain that they felt in life, and that's that. So that crosses the line into instead of people saying, "Man, I want that guy to get his, butt kicked," mm-hmm. it takes over. Man, forget this guy, and forget all of this, and I don't want to hear him. Mm-hmm. Where it's you want people to love to hate you if you're, a heel.
Right. Not just like actually feel bad. Like, why did I go to this, or I don't want to go here anymore.
Right. They're not trying to. I mean, like you wouldn't want to joke about. There, I didn't do this, but I know another wrestler did. One time they made a reference to like a plane crash and said, this is going to be the worst thing since the plane crash. And it was very personal to that area and that town he was in, and that was the wrong kind of heat. And the show lost a lot of money as a result. I mean, it can be very consequential to your bottom line if you get the wrong type of heat.
Mm-hmm. So, you mentioned your Twitter. Where is that? So, if people were interested in booking you,
Twitter, you can find me at ProgressLib LIB 804. And then I get probably more communication on my Facebook. You can find me there at /PL as in Progressive Liberal PL Daniel Richards. Mm-hmm. You can find me there.
Yeah. So when you mentioned that one fan tried to fight you, has that come up since then? Has the heat gone to where any people in the audience or people who see you outside of the shows like want to physically get into an altercation with you?
Not yet. Not yet. But I had one person say if I made it to their town, they would bring a gun and shoot me.
Wow.
Another person. This is in spring of 2016. So again, well before it took off to the level it has, and I talked about confiscating everyone's gun. Some guy walks out of a concession stand and shows off his piece and looks at it, looks at me, and as I told Tucker Carlson on his program, needless to say, just like Obama didn't take away his gun, neither did I.
Right. Yeah. My normal co-host here couldn't be here today. 1 Inch Biceps, who's from Huntington, West Virginia. He's got the conceal and carry. He packs heat on him. So.
Oh, I was just in Huntington the beginning of August at the fair they had there.
Yeah, and I don't want to present OIB as like some crazy gun-toting guy. We have our differences, but he wouldn't pull a gun on you or try to kill you or anything.
Well, that's nice. That's very nice. Much appreciated.
I still don't like him to have a gun on me, but
yeah, man, I don't want to be too political, but to me, assault weapons have no place. I don't know why this country can't evolve to that point. Australia did it, and their gun violence is massively curtailed as a result. So why we can't figure it out? Oh, wait, we can. It's just there's lobbyist money to be had. So why go with at least regulation, which 90% of the country is in favor of?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, even though I'm not going out and hunting or carrying a pistol on me, whatever, but if someone wants to hunt or they want to protect their house or all these different things, but you don't need an assault weapon that was made to kill a bunch of people. That's like the point of it.
It's a flamethrower, or like who?
Yeah, why can't you have like a missile launcher then? If you, there's a point at some point where you can't have certain things.
Right. Well, the argument there's always a couple of arguments that are just laughable to me. One is, cocaine's illegal, but that's not going to stop anybody from getting it. Mm-hmm. So does that mean we just should make all those drugs and trafficking of them? No regulation on that. No, that everything goes. I mean, to me, you're almost looking at promoting anarchy when you make that argument. The other equally stupid argument is of course, there's a Second Amendment argument as well, which is so antiquated and so not applicable to today. The other one that is most funny to me is when people talk about how, well, if the civilians aren't armed, and this kind of goes along with their Second Amendment argument, if they're not armed, the government could overtake us, enslave us, or whatever they're referring to. And I'm sorry, newsflash. If the government wants to do some sort of hostile takeover of its own people, they already have tanks, planes, and all kinds of weapons that you could probably only dream of having. I'm sure some people do. So I'm sorry, they got us already if they want to. And probably the guy that would probably do it is the guy they voted for president.
Exactly. Which were you surprised when Trump won?
No. I mean, now that's not to say that when he ran, I felt like anything was possible. And then I guess as he became the nominee, I was like, well, there's no way this guy can beat a sensible, sane candidate for president. But then, so I was hopeful that he would not win, of course. It wasn't to say that I thought he couldn't. But then as the polls, everyone talks about how Hillary was leading in the polls. Yes, of course she was, because it was only by 1% or 2%, because she did, more people voted for her. So it was a national poll. So of course she was winning. But then if you looked at the state polls, they were the states that, of course, because of the Electoral College, only a few states matter. And when you looked at the Pennsylvania polls and Nevada and Ohio, the swing states, those did not look good for her. And I looked at that. That was after Comey had announced, they're reopening the investigation, and only for him to, a few days later to say, hey, she's all clear there. But the damage had been done, and so 1 to 2 weeks out, those polls in the swing states did not look promising. And unfortunately, when you have this Electoral College, the swing states are all that matter. So if you're in West Virginia and you're a Democrat, I'm sorry, your vote does not mean as much as mine in Virginia, because Virginia's a swing state. And that's the problem with it. It's not sour grapes over who won. I thought the Electoral College was stupid when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it's no less stupid now.
Yeah, because exactly what you said. I live in Massachusetts. I mean, it's almost always going to be, Democrat wins. And it doesn't matter with the Electoral College if they win 100% of the votes or 99% of the votes, or if they win, 51% of the votes. It's all the same amount. So
yeah. To me, it would make. I mean, you could argue that it makes sense, which to at least modify the Electoral College. So let's say I take, 2/3 of the vote in Virginia, and I'm running for president, which some people have asked if I would. But then I should get 2/3 of the electoral points. But to me, if you're going to do that, then just eliminate the Electoral College altogether, because it's going to be based on the total amount of votes anyways, in all likelihood. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, a hybrid, I've just thought of that off the top of my head. I mean, a hybrid method would not be the worst thing. It'd certainly be better than what we have now, where, if you defeat me by one vote in a state, you get all the electoral points. That's, again, that makes it to where the votes are not, our votes are all not equal, and they should be.
Right, because if you did have some type of hybrid, I don't know how you figured it out, but where maybe you get a percentage of the electoral votes as opposed to all or nothing. You would still keep like the basic idea of why we have the electoral college to begin with.
Right. I mean, they do that with well, no, I don't know if they do it primaries or not, but yeah, I mean, it just would make sense that, again, like I said, if I get, or if, you and I get 50% of the vote, and we're in, let's see, I think New York's electoral 34, so we each get 17. It's a wash because the state was a wash. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think and apply that method to every single state.
Mm-hmm. And I know the argument's always, well, there's so many people in California, so it's not necessarily fair. But at the same time, I mean, each of those people are Americans, so why shouldn't their opinion, matter?
Right. But, I mean, I'd make the same I use the West Virginia example. If you're a Republican in California, your vote for president doesn't shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sorry, it just doesn't. And that's not fair. I lean left, but that doesn't mean I think it should be, everything should work in my favor, my party's favor. Mm-hmm. It should be fair for all Americans. Yeah. So, yeah, California Republicans their vote for president is not going to be the same as, again, mine in Virginia, or if I lived in Pennsylvania or Florida or Ohio.
Mm-hmm. And then that's why they campaign in all those states, way more than states where it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean that's why we saw Virginia saw a lot more visits from candidates than in other places where, like South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Back to the wrestling side. Did you hear Jim Cornette's take on your character?
Yes. A friend of mine, another worker, sent me the. I was in the gym, and I came back to my car, and I had a Facebook message from him, and he sent me a link, and then it said, and then he put a message for it. Dan, you're killing the business, and I didn't. I was like, oh my God, I'm about to listen to Jim Cornette, who I very much admire and respect. I'm going to hear him bury me. And my stomach dropped, to put it nicely. And I was like, just tell me what he says. And then he didn't get back to me right away. So I just decided to man up and listen to it. And then I was like, oh, okay. My friend was giving me a hard time. Jim Cornette didn't bury me at all. No. He did say he's met me a couple times, which isn't the case, but oh well. I mean, people.
Yeah. I was just saying maybe you just don't remember, but I would assume you would remember meeting Jim Cornette.
I would definitely. I would remember meeting him a lot better than he'd remember meeting me.
Yeah, but yeah, he didn't. It wasn't you personally. It was more that the gimmick, brings out the stereotype of what Southern wrestling, or just wrestling fans in general, I guess people think of.
People of the South. I mean, but it's not wrong. That is what it is. I'm going to Pittsburgh this Saturday to speak at a liberal conference, and I plan to speak about that. It's just like the South is a tough crowd to reach, and with the system set up the way it is, if you want to win a presidential election, to me, you need to work only on the swing voters, because those people are they're not going to vote for you simply if you're labeled liberal or Democrat, because they're going to have these preconceived notions about you. And, some of them are quite true. Like, again, a liberal is going to be pro-choice, and if you're pro-life, that's not going to jive with you, and they're not going to vote for a liberal. And then there's this misnomer that, Republicans are, own the spiritual world, or they're the religious party. They're no more religious, spiritual, or whatever you want to say than anyone on the Democratic side, in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you think more of a political question, but do you think all those kind of things, it limits, candidates, and because then instead of voting on a person, you're voting on one side or the other. And I think most people aren't all like I'm pretty liberal, but not. I think most people, maybe liberal one part with immigration or whatever, but maybe they're more conservative in something else. And I think most people have different ideas as just instead of just bam, I'm all this side or bam, I'm all this side.
Right. The truth's in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
There's and that's why when people are trying to win their primary, they move hard left or hard right, depending on what primary you're in. And then when it comes to the election, whether you're running for governor, or president, or whatever, you move more to the center because you're trying to get votes. I just dare some candidates to just be who they are, from start to finish. I think that's why Bernie appealed to so many people, because he was the same guy and would have continued to be the same guy if he had won the Democratic primary.
Did you, well, I guess at the time when you adopted the gimmick, Bernie was already out of the picture. I was just wondering if you ever thought of, instead of the Hillary shirt, would you have a Bernie shirt?
Well, you got to realize that despite the surge in popularity that Bernie had, Hillary is always going to be the heat.
Yeah.
Because not only does she get heat with all the Republicans, where some of them just might be indifferent about Bernie, she also would get heat with a lot of, liberals. Because plenty of comment, they say not to read the comments, but I end up doing it.
Sure.
Not a lot, but, here and there. And, on different, whether it's something on YouTube about me or whether it's something, a story. Just interested in it. But, a lot of people will be like, well, here he is trying to be a progressive liberal, but he's wearing a damn Hillary shirt and she's a neocon. But I got them too. That's the idea, is to get. So I think that's funny.
Yeah. I mean, I have actually a good friend who's very conservative and who listens to the show and everything, and he was actually going to vote for Bernie over Trump if it came down to the two. But when it was Hillary, there was, even though he's not a Trump fan at all, he still voted Trump because that's he's still Republican. He couldn't vote for Hillary, but it was interesting.
Right, people made the false, had a flawed line of thinking that, Trump might be the lesser of two evils. So that I'd like to think that, at least as of yesterday, that people started to realize that certainly wasn't the case. But yeah, man, the poll showed, when you looked at it before the Democratic primary was settled, which, by the way, I started doing this when that was still in full swing. I mean, this is November 2015 when I started. But I mean, Bernie would have probably won pretty handily, whereas, Hillary was going to be close. And I mean, the poll showed that in the beginning. And like I said, despite what Republicans would like, talking heads would like you to believe, those polls are not wrong.
Now, you just mentioned in the recent days here, are you going to touch Charlottesville at all in the in any promos or the gimmick?
I mean, I don't see where I need to bring up the events of that day. I mean, if there's going to be a time to talk about it in any sense or fashion, it would probably be Friday. When I'm in Annandale, which is probably about 2 hours from Charlottesville. But again, man, people are going there to be entertained. Politics is a hook, so but I don't know necessarily that I need to tie that in.
Yeah. Maybe a tag team could chase you with tiki torches, or.
I don't.
I'm just kidding.
I don't advocate tiki torches in a march or a chase, but in any means.
Tag team Blood and Soil with tiki torches could be your rival.
Man.
But no.
It's the wrong heat.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Tucker Carlson earlier. How did that come about? And just what was that whole experience like for you to be you become the progressive liberal to be like local wrestling, and here you're on Fox News?
Man, I mean, first of all the media. I've enjoyed every media interview, save for one radio interview with some chump in St. Louis. But other than that, man, I've enjoyed every single bit of the media attention I've gotten. Tucker Carlson, senior producer, contacted me like early on. Mm-hmm. And part of it was we couldn't get schedules to line up. And then at that point, we had a network exclusive with CBS. And then CBS, we got delayed about a week and a half on when our the piece on me on CBS Evening News ran. But Fox was really good to work with. I mean, obviously, we don't share the same political views, but they were really great to work with and very accommodating. And they understood, they didn't get upset, because I had an exclusive with CBS and say, forget you or anything like that. They understood. And then when the time came, it's like, hey, let's do this. And they sent a car to my house. The Fox staff was nothing but professional, and Tucker Carlson was ultra nice. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it might have been a different story if I was a congressperson or something like that, but I guess in their eyes and for what it is, it's soft news, and so it didn't have to be so confrontational. And we got our little jabs in at each other, but man, I had an awesome time. I mean, total class experience.
Yeah. What's your family thought about this?
Man, I just, they're excited for me, and I think, especially after the Tucker Carlson interview, mm-hmm. My immediate family leans right, but then I've got family literally all over the country, like from upstate New York to Seattle to Denver, Colorado to Florida, and family in Fairfax as well that's going to be seeing me wrestle in Annandale for the first time. So anyway, but they're all excited for me, and what else could you ask for?
Mm-hmm. Were your parents were they cool with you even pursuing wrestling? Besides the political gimmick.
Neither of them like wrestling. Uh-huh. Like my mom doesn't understand for the life of me why, and my dad's always worried like I'm gonna get seriously hurt. Uh-huh. But I just can't live my life like that, and he's also now worried that I'm going to be murdered. So I can
sorry
understand.
To laugh at that, but
yeah, no, it's meant to. I'm saying it lightheartedly, but yeah, I mean, it's just I can't live my life like that. If someone and fans reached out, especially Deadspin ran another story on me yesterday about the I wiped my ass with the Confederate flag at Duke Fest. So tens of thousands of Dukes of Hazzard fans were, at this event. And, a lot of people gathered around the ring for, we had 3 different shows during the event, each day of the 2-day event. So the last one that I wrestled in, I, brought the Confederate flag, wiped my rear with it, and threw it in the trash. And I sent that out to my good friends at the liberal media, and Deadspin ran it, the video, and put a little blurb together with it, and got some more hits that way, more popularity. But now I think my dad kind of worries that something like that catch up with me. But fans have worried about it too. But if someone's going to kill me because they have a difference in my political opinion, they're just going to. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that anyone can do to stop it. It's just going to happen. So I'm not going to not make a town because someone threatens to bring a gun. If I show up, I'm just going to keep doing what I do and what I enjoy. And I'm not going to be afraid to speak how I truly feel, because if I do, then their terrorism prevails. So I'm not going to live like that.
Yeah. So when did the idea to do the Confederate flag, the wiping your butt with the Confederate flag, how did that come about? And was the promoter and everything cool with that?
As soon as I knew I was wrestling at Duke Fest, I had the idea, and then we got a hookup with the Confederate flag, and the guy who ran the event was fine with it. He gets it, so it worked.
Have you had any incidents with other wrestlers? Like, do any other wrestlers rib you or get mad about the gimmick?
Only one really has ever taken to heart. But yeah, to me that's his problem, not mine.
Yeah.
Everyone else understands. Like, they understand it's me, but I mean, I can speak with people and be friends with people who have different political views than I do, or I can at least get along with them. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's the business side of it, and especially when there's some notoriety that came with it, with the media attention. It's like guys get that it can be good for all of them. So, yeah, there's no real heat from the boys. Like, I mean, to me, if you get that upset about it, you're just a mark. And
sure, right. This would be the same way if you would get upset at them for being, very conservative or something.
Right. I mean, if it's getting the right kind of heat, if you're getting the right kind of heat, you're gonna bring people in, because if you're getting the right kind of heat, that means the fans should want to see one of the baby faces, beat the tar out of you, and that sells tickets. So I wouldn't hate if we were in California and there's someone doing the Sean Hannity character. I certainly wouldn't hate on them for that.
Right. Has any other wrestlers contacted you? Maybe like Mick Foley or any of I guess known liberal professional wrestlers?
Oh, a very well-known conservative in the wrestling world. I've talked to him a couple times, Eric Bischoff. So that was really cool and really surreal to talk to him on the phone, and then I did his podcast, and it was awesome. But Eric's a very nice and very generous guy, and also a very level-headed guy. I've always admired Eric for his candidness and honesty even before I ever talked to him. So, and then to actually speak with him and, be on his show, which is just, to me, an endorsement. It's a very nice endorsement. Definitely. It was awesome. And then I talked to, in that same podcast, so we did like a wrestling political summit, whereas myself and Nick Houseman, the co-host, with Eric on Eric's program, and also writer for WrestleZone.com. We were representing, Team Blue, and Team Red was Eric, and then Tyrus, who is known as Rhodes Clay in WWE. They were, and he's the regular on the Greg Gutfield show, so we had a little political summit, but we were able to keep it cordial, and everyone was able to get their stuff in, but it didn't get heated. It was all good.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I've had Eric on this show a couple times, and I talked to him a little bit off the show, and he's A great guy, actually. It was one of our favorite, one of my favorite interviews on the show.
Yeah, it's always someone I enjoyed listening to. And he's an entrepreneur, which I am as well. So, of course, he's doing it bigger than I've ever done it. So, I admire him. And, as a businessman, yeah. I mean, it's been awesome, man. It's been a wild couple of months. I've enjoyed every single second of it.
Yeah. Now, who trained you?
So I started in the ring with Scotty McKeever, who, he was trained by George South and the Italian Stallion. He was the one that, bumped me around for the first time, showed me, basics. But my big mentor and, my predominant trainer was Bo James. And, he'd be a great guy to have on your podcast, by the way. But also,
yeah.
But Bo's been amazing for my growth in the ring, and then outside the ring as well. And then just giving me, he's a great wrestling historian, so I've learned a lot from him, and the car rides, the knowledge that passed down those car rides is, extremely valuable, and it's definitely helped shape my mindset as a wrestler. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah. When did you get into wrestling, and what wrestlers made you want to become a wrestler?
Well, I mean, I was a Hulkamaniac as a kid, like a lot of people my age were, and then but I guess when I was, watching as a teenager and stuff, I really liked Chris Benoit, which I know is, something you almost can't say. I mean, I just did. And then Lord Steven Regal, later known as William Regal, in WCW and then WWE, respectively. I really enjoyed his work. I still like watching old Regal matches from, WCW Saturday Night and things like that. He's tremendous.
I love his promos. He would use sunshine almost as an insult, and I just thought that, I don't know, there's something about that that always made me smile.
Yeah. I mean, he had the British charm, because obviously it's where he's from. But he's such a good heel, and his facial expressions were off the charts.
Definitely. Yeah.
Ready to get heat, and I mean, I hope there's a little of him somewhere in me, So.
Yeah. Well, because I heard you mention this on one of the videos where you said that to some people, liberal, they equate with being gay, and I think he had some of that wrestling where he was wrestling, where people associate, being like a British aristocrat as being, effeminate.
Well, I think also, people, particularly in the South, they have this inferiority complex, this persecution complex. They think outsiders think they're better than them.
Mm-hmm.
So that, that British blue bloods sort of thing. And then, being a liberal, they associate that with that same type of arrogance in some way that we figuratively and literally turn our nose up at them. And so, I play off of that just like he did, or not just like, but, I try.
Mm-hmm. To play devil's advocate, do you think there is an arrogance to some liberals in regards to that, where they do think that they are better than the Southerners?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say that's predominantly the case, but I mean, the Democratic Party and the and progressive liberals are not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure there's some of that exists, but I wouldn't say that's any less different than the Republican Party.
Sure.
And it's probably more to a greater degree in the Republican Party. But, again, perception is reality, and I think it's going to take a very, very, very long time before that perception is ever changed in the South, in the red states.
Uh-huh.
I just do. In the Midwest, to a lesser degree. I think it's going to take a lot of boots on the ground to change people's perspective.
Mm-hmm. There was something else I saw in one of the videos where you talked about that you get a lot of heat pronouncing words differently, like your enunciation. And did you notice that even before you were in wrestling?
I noticed it when I was in college, because I went to college at Concord. It was then Concord College. It's now Concord University. And, you know, I would get, people would make fun of me because I'd enunciate words properly. I had a friend who was criticized for using the word adversarial because the person criticizing him thought that his use of that, because it was a big word, came off as him thinking he was better than somebody, when he was just using it as a word.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it just, that's the type of ignorance that just is mind-blowing to me.
Mm-hmm. It's a there's like an anti-intellectual movement, I think, in the last couple of years.
You know, yeah, but if that gets heat, using a big word, I mean, and of course, and I mean, like I said, that was in college, so I had a strong. Then when you're in, so then I'm in front of these audiences in Kentucky who, you know, they say mommy and daddy, and then they say holler, and you know, and then the big one is saying, so I say Appalachian, and it's Appalachian, or that's how they say it. So, you know, you lose the crowd. Say, Bo would tell me a story. I think it was so it was at a Leonard Skinner concert, and whoever the opening act was for Leonard Skinner, the guy said the way I say it, Appalachian, and he lost the crowd because of that, because they knew he wasn't from around here. I mean, for that to be a bad thing, number one, it's just, and so for people not to like you anymore, it's just, to me, beyond stupid, because it's a pretty big world. So if you just want everyone to sound and talk like you, I mean, you know, Canadians say things differently than we do. I don't hate them because they're Canadians or outsiders. I mean, I embrace it. I get a kick out of it because not everybody's the same. Nor I think it'd be a pretty boring world if everyone was. But maybe I think that's the way they want it.
The boot. I got some questions here from our Facebook page. Renee Mercedes wants to know, what's it like being the smartest man in Kentucky?
I'm going to take that as a compliment towards me. It's wonderful. It's very lonely.
I
mean, you know, Kentucky thankfully has at least one liberal hotbed in Louisville, so I imagine there might be someone smarter than me out in Louisville. Eastern part, no way.
I'll be in Kentucky next month, in Lexington.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Lexington's a little more left-leaning than other areas, but I'd probably, you know, if I was to wrestle there tomorrow, I'd probably still be booed predominantly.
Evan Esler wants to know, would you ever go to California where you might actually be capable of being a face?
Oh, yeah, in a heartbeat. I might be going there next month to film a cable to be on a cable television show. I won't name the show because the date's not locked down yet. But I mean, I would, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm excited. Like I said, I'm wrestling in Annandale, and I'll be in Pittsburgh the following day, and I'll be warmly received at both of those towns. So, of course, I would do LA or, anywhere in California.
Have you been contacted by any wrestling promotions, outside of your area?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to a lot of places. And I just started with a booking agent who works with a lot of other talents. So I'm excited to see where that'll lead to.
Yeah. I know you said you wouldn't change your style at all, but would you change any nuances of your character depending where you were wrestling? If it was clear that you were like a babyface to a certain crowd?
What do you mean nuances?
Well, even where you mentioned where you might kind of play up where the crowd thinks liberals are effeminate. So if you're in front of a crowd where it's clear that they love you, or they're clear that that you're the babyface, would you change that at all? Would you change just certain mannerisms or any part of your character?
I guess.
Or would you have to be kind of in the moment to know?
Yeah, that's probably part of it. But to me, I mean, so wrestling is supposed to, I mean, okay, the jig is up. So people know it's predetermined. That doesn't mean you can not still lose them in your story. And to me, so you're trying to do the best you can to simulate believable combat and not lose people's suspension disbelief. And to me, if I'm in a real life confrontation, regardless of where I'm at and who I'm, fighting or wrestling, I wouldn't change who or what I am, but there's going to be people who cheer for me either way. So, I don't know. There's going to be, I don't know, little tiny nuances. Like I might not, so one thing I'll do, like I said in the HBO thing, people associate liberalism with being gay, so I don't really care if they think that or not. I mean, I'm not, I know I'm not, so it's all good. It's all good, but they think I am, and I could care less, because that's their closed-minded problem. But so one thing I'll do is I'll ham up the flamboyance a little bit. Sometimes when my opponent's down, take a little lap around the ring where I swing my hips, a lot more. And, that works. I might not feel the need to do that in front of the crowd.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff I was asking about.
Yeah. I guess the reason I was coming from where I was coming from before is I think sometimes workers will get in the mindset, well, I'm a baby face now, so now I can't
smiling and yeah,
I can't rake the eyes, or I can't, now I have to start throwing arm drags, and that's incorrect.
Because I think that's happened before with wrestlers, and then it kind of takes away what, let's say you have a heel, and the crowd starts to get behind him. And then they make him a babyface, and then immediately he's all smiling and acting like the prototypical babyface of before. But it takes away what they got behind him to begin with. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, to your point, man, it's like, why would you change it? To me, the reason they're behind you is because
they like whatever you're doing.
They believe in you, number one, but two, they, a good heel and a good babyface, they both think they're right. It's just the crowd siding with one of them.
Yeah. Because I'm not going to compare it to Stone Cold and Rock, but I think why they were so successful when they became babyfaces, they didn't change.
Yeah.
They were still the same kind of person.
Oh, Hogan too. So you mentioned three of the biggest draws in the history, or the three biggest draws in the history. Neither of them, none of the three changed the way they wrestled, whether they were heel or baby.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Austin had to change the style of Leonard's career because, particularly the injury to his neck.
Yeah, and I also think it fit the Stone Cold character to be more of a brawler than more of the technical wrestler he was as Stunning Steve.
Absolutely, yeah. I was a huge Stunning Steve fan and a huge Hollywood Blonde fan too, by the way.
Yeah. What was really cool about, for me anyway, with Steve Austin was he was one of the guys I got to really see from like the start of his career, because I saw him in the his early days at the dying days of World Class, and then in Global, and then see us progress through WCW and then WWE. So it really added. It's cool to be able to follow a guy for so long.
Oh yeah. I mean, no, I have to admit, so like I caught him as Stone Cold, then had to go backwards. Because I just, I grew up in Midlothian, Virginia, which is just south of Richmond. So I was in a Crockett territory, but I always watched WWF programming. And then it was when I started wrestling, I learned there was a lot I was missing. I had to learn about territories and things like that. And so I had to go backwards in my history and to know whatever I know now. So I love watching stuff in territory days.
Yeah.
A lot, Still plenty of stuff to learn, of course.
Yeah. I know, Kurt Angle had said years ago, when it was just a few years into his WWE run when he started to really, take off, was that you can learn something from anybody that like drew money in wrestling. They might not, like, he even talked about like watching Superstar Billy Graham stuff, and obviously that's a totally different wrestler than Kurt Angle was, but he said you could learn something from him because, he drew money. He was successful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, also, older wrestlers will tell you, anyone with a clue will tell you, you should, to anyone who's looking to get in, you should only be trained by somebody who's drawn a dime in the business.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Bo has made money in this business. Bo's wrestled, made money from every promotion there is to make money from, and was on Memphis TV on the regular, and was rubbed shoulders with the best there ever were. So that's why he's a great guy for me to learn from.
Yeah. Daniel Marshall, would you kind of touch on this earlier? Any good death threat stories?
Yeah, the infamous one with the guy coming into town, the guy would shoot me if I showed up. Needless to say, I'm still here. Certainly those things should be taken seriously, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not gonna not make a town because someone threatens me.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not gonna live that way. I think there's probably especially for the alt-right movements that are going on, and then the video Deadspin put out with me wiping my butt with her precious, antiquated, useless flag. Maybe the best death threat stories yet to come.
All right. Well,
death threat story.
Yeah.
How's that for an oxymoron?
If you survive those death threats, you can always call me back.
I'll be happy to come back, call and tell you about it.
Very good. Jason Mitten, who is from Kentucky, he wants to know if the WWE calls, do you go to work for the Trump-supporting Republican McMahons?
Yes. I mean, again, I've been pretty clear, like, in terms of, I can get along fine with people who have different political views than me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the people in the audience that make it very easy to troll them. So I do to generate heat, but I'm not going to say, well, I forget this dream I've had since I was 10 years old. Because he likes Donald Trump, and I very well don't. But
I'm sorry, but no, Vince McMahon. I'm not coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob McGee, again, kind of you've touched on this, but Bob McGee says, serious question. After Saturday, are you more concerned working this gimmick, giving the lunatics that are out there, or no difference?
No, not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm certainly aware, but I mean, people said I should have been worried at Duke Fest, and I mean, I was conscious that it could lead to something, and but I'm still here. So,
yeah.
And I wasn't doing that just for show. That's how I feel about the Confederate flag.
Yeah. I was at a wrestling show once, and it was very strange because a fan actually had a Confederate flag, and this was in Massachusetts, and Homicide just like ripped it out of his hand. I don't know if you're probably familiar with the wrestler Homicide. It was just a very odd incident because I'm not sure why someone had a Confederate flag in Massachusetts.
I mean, there's one in every town, I guess, or at least. I mean, so between Richmond, where I live, and D.C. is Fredericksburg, Virginia, and there's a big Confederate flag flying flying high that you can see when you're driving by the one of the exits off of 95.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's just beyond embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's as far as we think, we may have progressed in terms of civil rights and just intelligent thought. We have a long way to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. It's been awesome to talk to you. And one more question was now that your videos are viral, you're on news channels and stuff. What is it that you would like to work on as a professional wrestler to better yourself and to take advantage of this current fame right now? The spotlight.
Yeah, I think the best way to learn is to work with people better than me, which I'm getting more opportunities to do. I mean, I worked with Shane Gregory, Hurricane Helms last Friday. So, I definitely got some knowledge as a result of that. So opportunities like that is one way. But I mean, as far as my own, I mean, it's continuing to, I think there's a lot of value in watching tape. I say tape because that's dating myself, but tape of my matches, footage of my matches, if you will. Seeing what works, what doesn't, what looks crappy, and what maybe what areas I'm improving, and just constantly evaluating, and then constantly going to people who know more than I do and getting their critiques. So I do that every chance I can get because I'm not where I want to be, and I probably never will be, and that's just kind of how I am. Mm-hmm. I just want to constantly learn and gain the respect of my veterans and peers who, I just, at the end of the day, you want guys to look at you and say, yeah, he can go, or that guy can work. And, Redwood started from a small seed as an expression I learned when I was a teenager. And so I don't know where I am in that growth process, but I'm certainly not a redwood. Got plenty to learn, man. And certainly the last year in particular has been a lot. I've seen a lot of growth and a lot of improvement in my work. So I just want to continue, man. I'm very humble about stuff like that, despite the character I play.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. I really appreciate you doing this. It's been great to talk to you, and I really enjoy your character and continued success for yourself.
Hey, man, thanks very much for having me and giving me the platform, Jackie. Much appreciated. Tell your right-wing co-host sorry he couldn't make
it. I will indeed. But since you brought him up, I wasn't going to kind of throw him on the bus here, but I just want your opinion on this. Two things. He's West Virginia from Massachusetts. We talked for years. The first time we met, though, it was probably after 3 or 4 years we knew each other online. He was worried because we were sharing a hotel room at a convention that I was like going to rape him, and and also when he drove to the convention we met, he wanted to bring a gun with him because he thought he might be attacked by bears.
Wow. Yeah, man, that's oh no, like it reminds me. I went to a concert with some friends. We went to Rock on the Range. This was back in 2009, and let's just say the most southern of the 4 people in this party. So we were sharing a hotel room because we're just
sure you can save money.
Cheap. Yeah. So there's 2 beds, and I'm very confident that if I'm sharing a bed and the other person just happens to be a guy that, I'm not going to try to fuck him. Oh, God. No, don't. Can I start that over? I'm very confident that I'm not going to sleep with him. And I know him well enough. I'm confident enough that, given he's my friend, he's not going to try to sleep with me. So we can share a bed for a night. And, this other guy was like your co-host, and he thought that was, effing gay, so he had to sleep. He had to sleep on the floor. So, God forbid word got out that he had to share a bed with a friend.
Yeah. This wasn't even sharing the bed. This was just sharing the room. So.
Oh wow, that's a whole another extreme. At least this guy would share a room.
Exactly. All right, and I know you mentioned earlier again, but real quick, where can people find you online?
Oh, glad you asked. So Twitter, it's at ProgressLib804. Facebook, it's /PL Daniel Richards. And then on, I have a website that should have been done a long time ago, but we won't get into that. Anyways, the website address is, and you can register, you can put your email in now and it'll give you a notification where everything's up. But it's dantheprogressiveliberal.com. That's the URL. So check that out. That should be hopefully up in the next week.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks again, man. It's been great.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Really, really enjoyed it.
Cool.
This is Eric Bischoff. Controversy creates cash. You know what else? You're listening to In Your Head